So we're using a finished nail gun. You can use hammer nails. For this particular project, it's probably gonna take a while.
That would take a good while, but it
is
could be
doable.
done. Yeah.
And we wanna have a spacer. So this is just an offcut from the sticks that we'll use as our guide for how we're spacing these.
Start at the corners. You know that those are gonna line up, and each one of these only has one nail in each end, so there is some flexibility. You can pivot them, you can work with them until you get everything lined out, but this is the best way to start it, is just corner, corner, and then start filling in from there. If after a few pieces it doesn't feel super stable, don't panic.
So we're just doing the 4 corners just to give at least some stability.
So once you get your 2 corners on this end, I like to go ahead and just get one side done so that it's got some strength to it. We're going to just fill in this one side and then we'll spin it around and continue on. See, the main thing to making these look nice is keeping that spacing consistent. So using the spacer, I would say, don't try to eyeball it.
So it is a little time consuming. So, make sure you're starting this project maybe on a weekend or something when you have a day off.
It's a huge impact for what you actually have to do. You can adjust your spacing too. If you want less of a space between, you can do that. If you want a bigger gap, you start to lose it a little bit if it gets too gappy. Working from both sides too can help make sure that you keep everything kind of even and level. So we've got the first side done. We're gonna do a 180 flip and start on the other end. Now that we've got some structure, it'll hold together a lot easier, but you'll still probably need a little bit of help to spin it without cranking it too weird. So when you're nailing this one on the end where the tip of the triangle is really thin, just make sure you're angled in to the wood.
You don't want to nail yourself to the table.
Yeah, we've been there, we've done that.
So we're just gonna finish up this side and then flip it over and do the final side. And then at that point, we're ready to finish out the table.
These tables are super versatile too. You can do them in different shapes. You can change out your wood colors. You can stain them, paint them.
You can use scraps of pine, oak. If you want to go really fancy, you could use teak. You can basically make these as affordable or as expensive as you'd like, and you can do them in any shape and size. So they're very versatile, but they do add a nice design punch to the room.
So if you were gonna stain any piece of this, definitely do it before you assemble because it gets a lot trickier after the fact. So if you wanted to cut your triangle, then stain, that would be the way to do it. For us, I like the natural. We'll do a light sand on top and then a nice polyurethane spray clear coat just to finish it out.
So we are using a 220 grit sandpaper that produces a nice smooth finish. We're using an electric sander. If you don't have one, you can do it by hand.
So we're ready to clear coat.
Yep. I'm gonna focus on the top of it since that's where you'll be putting your drinks and stuff like that. But I'm also gonna spray the sides just to seal up the cedar a little bit. So we're using a spray poly just to keep it easier. You could use a brush on also. The brush on would give you a thicker coat, but you can also just do more coats of the spray on. Although the spray on does make it easier to seal the cedar pieces, and that'll just help protect the cedar slats so that over time they don't dry out or warp. So it's helpful with the cedar slats to go from different angles so you kind of get all the sides of it. Probably gonna give the top another couple coats. You wanna make sure the top is properly sealed because that's where drinks will go.
So once this is dry, we're pretty much done with it, and I absolutely love the way it looks. Super excited, I think it's gonna look great. So for this space, a triangle really works well. We've got some other geometric shapes in the room, so it really will kind of anchor the space. If you want to change it up, go for it. I love circle ones, I love ovals. There's just really a lot that you can do with these.
People really love these tables for a reason. They're very versatile. They bring the warmth of real wood. They're kind of playful and they add a lot of texture.
So if you're looking for a DIY project that really has a big impact, that's not super hard, I feel like this is the perfect project for you. For this particular space, we're doing a lot of creams and mochas, cappuccino colors. So for this particular lamp, we're going with a nutmeg.
We're gonna paint the surface with some spray paint.
Even on the second coat of this,
Keep it light.
as light as possible because it can still run so easily.
Yeah. And you see how he's kind of far away from it? That'll help you keep it light, because as soon as you go in close, it's gonna get real thick and you'll get runs.
We're gonna paint the shade to match. I love monotones, so using the same spray paint will kind of keep the design cohesive.
This is fabric, so you don't have to really prime it. You can just do a quick spray paint on it.
The main thing about painting fabric is to paint it at least 2 times. You'll notice kind of variations in the way the paint hits. If you do it a second time, you can kind of hit those spots.
You want to have a very consistent coat of paint, and the way you do that is by just doing multiple coats. So we're gonna let this dry for a couple minutes, and then we'll do a second coat.
So when I'm looking for lamps, I love anything that has a nice shape. Spheres are awesome, triangles, anything that's kind of blockish. You're looking for something with a modern shape that you can modify and make it look like it's today. So we painted the second coat on the lampshade. It's nice and consistent with the paint. So we're gonna mix up some concrete and we'll do a nice
Cement.
Oh,
Technically, but yeah.
we're gonna mix up some cement, according to Mr. Construction Man, and do a nice dip. The goal with the dip is to create a nice angular dip on the lamp to kind of mimic like a triangle and just give that nice like angular line. If you have a giant room, you can get by with some really chunky stuff. If you have a smaller space, smaller lamps and smaller lampshades can really make the space feel a lot larger than it actually is. Depending on your space, try to think about what the scale and proportion look like, and that will help you when you're looking for a lamp.
So the first step is we have to mix the concrete.
You said concrete.
Oh, sorry, cement. We have a plastic container that is big enough for us to dip the whole lamp in. So before we mix, we're gonna mask back up. So the way I like to do it is I like to put the powder in and then slowly add water. There is the ratio on the bag, so I would start with that. This is a paddle mixer with a cordless drill. If you don't have a drill, you can just use a 5-gallon paint stirrer. This is about the right texture. Still some lumps in it, so you wanna get as much of those out as possible.
So it's pretty liquidy, that's a good thing. I always like to touch it just to see if it coats your fingers nice. That's exactly the consistency you want.
So we're gonna make a little place out of newspaper where this lamp can land as soon as we dip it. So at this point, I'll let Keith do the dipping since he's the artiste.
I wanna make sure 2 things is I don't get any of the electrical components in the concrete, obviously. It's a nice place to hold it as well for the dip, but you're gonna go in at a nice, about, I don't know, 30 degree,
20, maybe.
20 degree angle. And just super easy, light in, push, kind of lean it up to whatever you want. For the dip, we'll pull it out. You're gonna let the excess run off. What we're really hoping for is kind of that sharp line. The good thing is if you mess it up, you can dip it again, create a new line. So don't worry too much if you don't get the dip right the very first time.
So this cement, it'll take about 10 to 20 minutes before it starts to harden. Move it a couple times as it's drying to make sure that it doesn't solidify itself to the paper. And you'll notice that the sheen goes away and the color should change to a slightly lighter gray. And I will say you should probably use a container that you don't really care about because
it's gonna be trash.
You can get the cement out of a plastic container, but make sure you choose a container that you don't really care about in case you get some excess that is hard to come off. I would let this harden for a couple hours, and then at that point, it should be ready to assemble.
So we've got our lamps done. It's really fun to bring in textural elements as many places as you can. And these lamps are a really great example of that. This is a really simple technique, I feel like, that brings in our color palette and some texture.
Cement might seem a little intimidating, but it's actually pretty easy, and it adds a really great texture for this design.
So a lot of times when you tape off something on a wall and you don't seal it, when you put your color on, it bleeds into the edge. Sealing the tape means that you're using the same background paint to just literally seal the edge of the paint so that when you pull that tape line back off, it is a perfect line with your nude paint on top of it.
You want to brush into the tape so that you're kind of getting paint under the tape line so that it'll dry and create a nice seal.
So we have this really pretty kind of peachy, neutrally color that I love. Pairs beautifully with brown and cream and white. I'm gonna do this band across the room that kind of will give a little bit more dimension, create some depth. Sealing your tape line is just a couple of minutes, but it makes a huge difference professionally speaking. The next step is to draw off a couple of rectangles, then we can finish out the last two colors and call this mural done. Our mural is done. We're gonna move on to the wood piece. It's gonna be in this nice triangular shape to kind of bring in yet another geometric element to the whole room, really tie all of those themes together.
We're gonna make this wood art piece out of old cedar fence pickets so we can go over to the wood shop and cut those up. We're gonna do a wooden art feature on this wall. It's similar to what we've done on Bargain Block. We're gonna use some scrap cedar wood to keep it affordable, but it should really add a big design impact to this room.
All right, so we're gonna make a nice layered wood piece of art. So it'll hang on the wall on top of the mural. It'll be a nice three-dimensional element that'll bring in some more geometric shape. This is the easiest wall art I think you can do. These are all 60-inch strips of cedar. We're gonna just keep it really, really simple.
Okay.
No cuts, we'll lay it out. The whole goal with this is just to create something that's layered, has texture, dimension, and so what we want to do is just kind of randomly lay them in a pattern where we can create a triangle. Kind of has like this fun, modern Art Deco thing going.
So we're fastening these with 1¼ finish nails. We have a finish nailer here. If you don't have a nail gun, then you can just use loose finish nails and a hammer.
The only place it gets a nail is anywhere it overlaps. So layer one is make sure everything's nice and gridded. It'll create some structure to the art piece and make sure you can continue to lay it up.
So we're gonna wear our safety goggles in case a nail goes awry, and then just start fastening them.
So this is the first layer. From here, we'll just keep layering it to give it more dimension and more texture. This is the fun part. You can kind of be creative with your layout. You can go as layered as you want. You can go as minimal as you want. I like the depth. I like the texture. So to me, in this particular art piece, more is more. So we'll keep layering it up a little bit. It'll hang kind of like that on the wall. And if you don't like that, we can always play with it and turn it. That's the fun thing about a shape like this is you can kind of get it in the space and see what you're feeling.
So you bring this, I'll bring a drill and a screw.
Okay.
Then we can hang it.
Awesome.
All right, so where are you thinking of hanging it?
Right there. All right, I love the way it looks. It's got a really cool geometric shape to it. Lots of layers, lots of texture. Should play really well with all the other pieces coming in for the room.
The cedar plays with all the same tones. It looks really nice.
Thank you, I love it. We can style it now. It's my favorite part.